liberty and justice for all.
The school board will convene to executive session tonight to consider the promotion compensation of the family's evaluation data over any public employee of the district providing jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statute 19.85 for N1 parentheses to consider open employment positions. And then we have one guest who signed up to talk under item number 4, which is now you wanted to speak under public comments. Nicole, okay.
You may speak
You
right
can
here.
come forward and speak. We allow 3 minutes for each speaker, so we'll just ask Haley to time that, if you will. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Little back on me. I have 3 children, all adults, 23-year-old, 22-year-old, and a 20-year-old. I'm new to the county, new to the town of Sevastopol, year and a half. My oldest is a graduate of Rhinelander. My youngest is a graduate of Wisconsin Virtual Academy. My middle is a graduate of Shawano High School. During the tenure of Ms. Anderson. Now, before everybody takes a deep breath and panics, I do have some concerns that I do feel should be addressed. I know I have sent an email to the school board, but during the time, things got really hairy with the Shawano School District. The friends and family that I had working for the Shawano District did not care for working under Mrs. Anderson. She made the school district a pretty toxic place to work with. She made public comments that the parents and community are absorbing too much of her time. One issue that I had is several of her consultants she handpicked did some pretty shady business. One was her IT technical infrastructure person. She sold, recycled the equipment that was pulled out of the district without seeing if there was higher bids through other recycling places. Her other consultant that was handpicked to see why enrollment was going down was supposed to contact me directly. Made big appearance during a school board meeting that I attended, never followed through. I was told that a lot of the evidence and things that were given to the school board were anecdotal because they were not published. But the information that I have was from the school board meetings that I did attend. The behavior and mannerisms of the certain individuals were not conducive of that administration. Anything that you had to say was turned away. I had a very big concern with my son, which I sent a very long letter to the school board as well as Mrs. Anderson, and it was disregarded. It was things like telling political points of view during classes that had no relevance, like math classes. It also had with students that had trouble getting an education. Shawano was not known well for their internet. What do we do with those students? What about the students that are struggling with school to begin with? It was completely blown off. My biggest concern is, I understand that you guys are in a good financial place in your school district. I do not want to see this school district go into the hole without having due research. Don't go based on one person's opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Nicole. I will say that we did vet Mrs. Anderson pretty extensively, beyond what we read in the newspapers, beyond any personal references we have, and we think we've made a great decision for Sevastopol School District.
And I understand that. I do feel though, however, I do feel that because of the way that the contract was signed for her to resign, you guys don't have a true understanding of the policy.
Thank you for your
comments.
Can I have an agenda to approve the consent? Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and that included a $2,000 donation from the Jacksonville Area Business Association to the music department, so thank you very much to them. We'll move to administrator reports. Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you. Good to see everybody. And I just want to touch on the first 2 points that I have in my principal's report. In June, Mrs. Melkor, Mr. Horvat, and myself, we had an awesome opportunity to attend the Challenge Academy at Fort McCoy. The great thing about having that opportunity is, you know, here at Sevastopol, we really want to prioritize that we are meeting the needs of each and every student. And sometimes through the educational pathways, there are different pathways that are better for other students. And the nice thing about the Challenge Academy is if we would have a student, let's say, that was credit deficient and in danger of not graduating on time, you know, a partnership with the Challenge Academy would allow the students to attend the academy for a 22-week duration in which they would complete all requirements and get an acknowledgement not only through the Challenge Academy but Sevastopol for graduating. So for some of our students who maybe the school, you know, like being in class all the time and doing those things is their best pathway and they're not having success, it's an alternative pathway. And what's really exciting here at Sevastopol is we're working on 4 different pathways for students other than the regular education. So to make sure that we're meeting every student, we're giving every student a chance to succeed. And when we were there, it was just really powerful because we had one of the cadets was walking us around, and I asked him every question you could possibly ask. And I just said, so, you know, one question I said is, why did you come here? And he said, I needed an opportunity. And his mindset was, this was an opportunity. And I go, well, what was happening at high school, at the high school you attended? And he was like, man, I was in trouble all the time. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't working. I just really had a bad attitude in regards to it. And I saw this as an opportunity. And it was a really powerful moment. The great thing about having Mr. Horvat there too, we talked about, you know, would this be a program for students who have 504s or IEPs? Would this, do they have success with that? And it was really interesting because they answered that pretty quickly, and they said that students in those positions tend to thrive. So we have not, since I've been here, had a student attend it yet, but I thought it was really important because I did recommend it to some families to really get a hands-on approach to make sure that if we're recommending it, or I'm recommending it to families, they should get some insight to it and see what happens. And obviously, their day is spent where half of the day is academics and half is all about character building and team building and learning discipline and responsibility. And like I had asked the cadet who had worked with us, I said, did you ever not follow protocol? And he goes, yes. And I go, how many times have you repeated that? He goes, that was once, that was it. So you don't want to mess up because, you know, and talking about all the things that you have to do, like carry a log around for half of a day with another person and stuff like that. So there is some military feel to it. But anyways, I just wanted to share it as it was an awesome visit. It was an unbelievable opportunity. We got to fly in a Black Hawk helicopter. It was so cool. It just was a neat experience. Probably one I'll never ever forget. And then kind of shifting gears, the vaping partnership with the United Way, we were very fortunate. Timmy Sinclair of the United Way reached out to us because there were funds available. One of the things with sticking with our guiding principle, students first all the time, the reality is vaping is a problem. Students are vaping all the time. And right now, you know, our current protocol is when students make a choice or they're, let's say, addicted to vaping, we are kind of set up here for more of a punitive approach, not one that sits with our guiding principle, which is students first all the time. And I believe that that's our guiding principle, then we should be focusing on loving tough. And yes, there's consequences for making poor choices, but this opportunity that we have through the United Way, which the program is from the American Heart and Lung Association, offers us an opportunity to really help students. And if a student really wants to, if they're like, I want to get rid of this habit, I want to kick the habit, I want the help, we have a 10-week program that really helps them develop strategies. And then if you know, another option with that is a 4-session process, which is more informative. So we're trying to create opportunities for our students, and I love the focus of reaching all students with all, circumstances and some difficult, and we're finding ways to show them that we love them and we care about each and every student and they matter, and we're going to find ways to make them successful and help them along the journey. I think that's the responsibility of our school.
Great, thank you.
Just a comment, I did attend that Drug Coalition meeting where they talked about the vaping program, and I think it's excellent. I would ask to keep us informed of how it's helping students. And Lisa and I talked about the vaping devices, like in the restrooms and things. And at that meeting, they said the kids figure out how to get around those. They breathe into their shirts or whatever so that the devices don't pick it up. And they're very expensive. So the feeling of that group was that this is a better way to go. And they did indicate that some students have said they really want to quit, but they can't. They're addicted. And this program is helpful for them to be able to quit.
Absolutely, and that's having a student identify that, and just then to look at your school administrators and other staff and say, we got you, we're here to help you, we're not here to judge you. But I thought it was interesting, one stat that I put in there was, 92% of students who vape said they would not use unflavored tobacco products. So all these vapes with all these different flavors, of course they're targeting our young people, and so we gotta let them know that we're here and we're a resource for them.
Well, thanks for doing that. Thank you.
Jerry?
In your challenge about the physics and chemistry teacher, 55 years ago, I was a biology teacher and science teacher.
Are you applying?
No. I do have a minor in chemistry, but and
You're hired.
science teachers, whether it was biology or chemistry or physics, 55 years ago were pretty. I got hired over the phone before I even took an interview because they were desperate, I guess. They hired me. But so, what are you going to do if you can't find a chemistry teacher in September?
Well, I'm an optimist, so I'm not thinking that's going to happen. We do actually have one applicant for the position that has applied. I have reached out to a recruiting agency, and it was quite interesting because they, in there, which Kaylee sent me, so that was really good, and then I connected with them. But they were talking about the position of a chemistry physics teacher on a difficult scale of filling it. On a scale of 0 to 10, it's a 10. It's one of the most difficult positions to fill. And obviously with Mr. Carrier, he was a phenomenal teacher here. He did an exceptional job. And so, we will find other ways right now to get other ways to advertise the position and reach out to other people. Or reach out to other candidates, or try to get candidates through other platforms other than just weekend.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips?
Thank you very much. Not too much more to add from the report that I sent out, with the exception of yesterday, Act 20 DPI came out with what it would recommend for the screener that we would give to our younger students in terms of reading. It's the Ames Web Plus by Pearson. I haven't had a chance to sit down with Deb Hurst, our reading specialist, and to really look at it myself, but that did come out yesterday. We will continue to work on Act 20. As I mentioned in my report, I'm taking a course along with Mrs. Hurst, and then during this school year, we will make sure that our teachers are taking those courses. They need to be enrolled and start beginning the program before the summer of 2025. So we will make sure that that is taken care of. But that's the big add to the report.
We've got a report that from Mrs. Margraf online. She's out of town, but recorded this for us on kind of an important topic.
Good evening. This is Melissa McGrath, Pupil Services Director at Sevastopol School District. I'm here to present the Pupil Non-Discrimination Self-Evaluation Overview of 2024. Every public school district is required to to evaluate and prepare a written report on the status of non-discrimination and equality of educational opportunity within their school districts. The school district self-evaluation and the status of pupil non-discrimination and equality of educational opportunities has to happen once every 5 years on a scheduled rotation, which is determined by the state superintendent. Please be aware that this presentation is a summary of the report. There is more information in the full report, which will be posted at a later date. The law requires schools to have a policy prohibiting discrimination, a written procedure addressing, receiving, and resolving complaints of pupil discrimination, employee designated to receive those complaints, posted annual public notice of pupil discrimination policies, pupil non-discrimination statements in all handbooks and other published materials, include a complete complaint procedures in staff and student handbooks, which includes the name, address, telephone number of the designated person, and assures that calculated steps are in place to stop pupil discrimination the district knows or should know is occurring. Thank you to the Sevastopol staff members below who helped to contribute to the writing of this report. Missing in this report is feedback from our parents, our students, and community. In future self-evaluation reports, all Sevastopol community members will be consulted and their voice will be heard in this comprehensive self-evaluation. The report requires that we do a district overview. I also included our mission of pioneering the next generation with a focus on high academic standards, character growth, and social-emotional skill development. Our vision that Sevastopol will create an all-inclusive and safe environment that empowers students to develop the necessary skills to be college, career, and community ready. And finally, our guiding principle, students first all the time. Section 4 through 11 have a specific purpose and different areas that were investigated. I will highlight each section and its purpose and highlight a key finding and recommendations to improve the district's procedures. This is Section 4. The purpose of Section 4 was to examine board policies and procedures. The finding shows that the district does have board-approved policies prohibiting discrimination against pupils. However, we are not updated on all of the new Title IX regulations. The recommendations would be to update all regulations and procedures according to the new Title IX law. Section 5 focuses on enrollment trends in classes and programs. Recommendations for the future would be to explore any barriers that may exist that prevents our students that are English language learners and those students with IEPs in enrolling in AP classes, dual credit, or CTE opportunities. Welcome to Section 6. Methods, practices, curriculum, and materials used in pre-K to 12 instruction, school counseling, and assessment to determine whether all students are being included in the learning process. The finding shows that our students are exposed to ACP activities that we utilize Character Strong, Tier 1 and Tier 2, and the elementary still focuses on zones of regulation. Recommendations are to include emotional learning competencies, update the district's instructional material and evaluations so it includes criteria related to cultural responsiveness and bias, and we should continue to evaluate the effectiveness of current counseling resources, especially in the middle and the high school. We should also continue with the adoption of school-wide restorative practices. Section 7 focuses on trends and patterns of disciplinary action. There is a lack of consistency in the district about how suspensions, both in and out of school, are documented. A recommendation for the future is to ensure that there is a consistent process used for documenting behavioral incidents that lead to suspensions. We need to train our staff on what is needed for that documentation. We need to provide professional development for regular education teachers in the seclusion and restraint descriptions and guidelines. Require more staff be trained in nonviolent crisis intervention. create a regulation tip sheet for all teachers to be able to implement, continue to reinforce zones of regulation, continue to look for other professional development opportunities to support students with mental health needs and chronic absenteeism, continue to use Character Strong, and continue to support the behavioral expectations and standards according to handbook policy in a consistent manner, pre-K through 12. Section 8 focuses on trends and patterns of school district support of athletic, extracurricular, and recreational activities. The school district does follow pupil non-discrimination guidelines for athletics, a joint publication of the Department of Public Instruction and the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association. Key finding was there was inconsistent or no collective data to report on extracurricular or recreational activities. Participation in athletics was consistent. However, there was no information found on other areas. Recommendations would be to review our current practices in recording student activities to ensure that all student club records are kept consistently. Additionally, explore community partnerships to increase the scope of activities that could be available to our students. Investigate after-school transportation options for students to be able to participate in more athletic and extracurricular activities. Section 9 focuses on trends and patterns in awarding scholarships and other forms of recognition, specifically for students who are significantly underrepresented as recipients of awards and other forms of recognition. Findings show that the majority of scholarships are awarded by community organizations and the High School Scholarship Committee. Recommendations for the future would be to ensure that the in-house scholarship applications, description, and publications are made available in Spanish and any other necessary languages. In addition, to begin to analyze scholarship applicants and recipients based on gender, race, language, and disability status, where applicable. The school counselor has also suggested meeting with special education and English language learning students and teachers to discuss specific scholarship opportunities and to provide application mentoring. Section 10 focuses on the district's efforts and progress in closing academic achievement gaps and creating a school environment that does not discriminate based on protected categories. Findings show that the past 3 district report cards have consistently shown achievement gaps for students with disabilities in both math and reading. Additionally, over the last 3 years, students who are identified as English language learners has shown consistency increasing their level of English proficiency scores. Recommendations would be to continue to have conversations about the achievement gaps with students with disabilities and to continue that our English language learners be a priority for school and district goals. In addition, to create a Sevastopol data team to analyze district needs assessment. Within that data team, to make recommendations for equality of educational opportunity improvements. Section 11 is our last section. The purpose of this section is to evaluate the availability of pupil non-discrimination policies and materials for students, parents, and staff. Findings show that the school district policies are available electronically or in hard copy as requested to the general public on our district website. Findings also show that the district website does not currently have information regarding Title IX in either English or Spanish. Recommendations would be that the district update the website to include all information and the complaint process to Title IX, and that we will post the 2023-24 Pupil Non-Discrimination Self-Evaluation Report on the district website. Thank you very much for your attention. More information about the Non-Discrimination Self-Evaluation full report will be made available. The administrative team will also identify and prioritize improvement areas that were noted during this report. If you have questions, concerns, please see Melissa Margraf, and I will absolutely do my best to answer any questions that you may have. Have a great evening.
I know everyone's not as focused on our school boundaries as I am, but in communities listed, I see Institute, Valley, Jacksonport, parts of Egg Harbor, parts of Sturgeon, Juddville. Juddville is not in our school district. It's far north to Gibraltar, so we probably need to remove that. And we should probably add town of Sevastopol because Institute and Valmy are little merged within Sevastopol. So simply for if the community's looking at it, that it's clear that
I think the report is very thorough. I was impressed by it. I think there's a lot of work to be done in the recommendations that are indicated there. And I know that time is always an issue for staff and administration. So I'm wondering if there might be some way that we can form a committee that would be able to help with some of that implementation so that it doesn't all fall to a couple of people to do all of that. Even if we bring in some community people that might be willing to help.
Professional community.
Yeah, well, people who have an interest in that area, and I know there are people who have expertise in that could come in and help. When I look at those recommendations, I mean, there's a lot of work, and I'm thinking that there's some way that people can be helpful.
So I guess we could send that back to the administrative team for them to look at it and see if there are areas that.
Can I add to support that? But just to put the administrative team is going to meet and identify and prioritize these areas.
Right.
But then after that meeting, I would love what Sue's saying, because there's a whole lot of stuff in here.
Yeah.
So if it needs to be prioritized and then tracked, and when we get to it, and at least have status points in the future. That status point might be, hey, we're making some progress or great progress, but it's a lot of work. We just don't want it to.
Maybe a yearly review of where we are with the recommendations.
So you'll take that to the team and see if there's anything.
That's right, on the next meeting.
We'll have it all completed in the next case.
Oh, well, okay.
No, I was just we're getting rolling here, just.
This is a long range, so this is really like a strategic plan for the Regional Services Department. So a self-audit of where we currently are, and this is the first time that Melissa's completed this self-audit, and so it's really looking over a historical period of time, where we've been, what we're doing, and then moving some things forward. And I know that she's already put together some action committees to be able to start the conversations. And so I will take back the recommendation from the board that we'd like to see at a minimum an annual update on relationship to the findings that we've identified and the plans that we're moving to put forward.
Great.
There's a question. How do we make sure that the resources spent in this area do not shortchange resources in our core mission? The question I always say, do you think the Chinese are worried about this right now? No, they're really worried about calculus and organic chemistry and how we're going to go after the West. So where is the line in it that we do not shoot ourselves in the foot going as we go down this direction? Because there's only so many resources. This is how much we got. So we're going to get this much, or this much, or this much, before you start taking away from basic core things. That's my concern about all this stuff.
I guess I understand where he's coming from, because Melissa heads this, and in addition to this, she has to head the whole Title IX matter, which is, I understand, another huge added value thing. So I understand where he's coming
It
from.
seems like regulators who just keep piling on and piling on. Because they sit in ivy-covered walls away from the real world, not having any idea, or ever asking the question, how much resources is this going to take out of the educational system in our state or country or community?
regulation or a new expectation, and it's a battle public education has had for years around special education being underfunded to be able to provide the required resources to our students. And as a school district, we do everything that we possibly can to be able to serve those students and not take away from Peter to serve Paul. But unfortunately, it's a national issue that we have with special education funding, and it's one that we continue to battle, and they're ramping up again to have the conversations about how do we better fund our special education system so that we're able to support the students and we're not having to shift funds to be able to meet those mandated requirements. A battle that we'll continue to have, a battle that we'll continue to advocate for, really championing to our legislation to have the conversation about how we can make this happen. And as a district, we do everything that we possibly can to ensure every student has an equal and accessible education.
My follow-up on that is to your yearly thing. So I think to Jerry's point and what we're talking about is because this is, Melissa's not here, so this is really a question for her. And so I haven't seen this in full of a report. I know it's been ongoing, but there's a lot of stuff here. Before we're spending resources on it and taking it away from something, I think the school board should like to hear about that. And then we can weigh in, because if we, how we satisfy this mandated policy, the school board should be aware of that. And if we're falling short because of financial reasons, let that be the school board decision and not put that on you guys. And that's the collection is, there's a lot, and I think Melissa probably has a lot of comments on that. And that's the only thing we're asking is a little more insight than a year. So this is a good report, there's a lot of stuff on it. So here, and granted this has been out there for a while, but this particular report, I guess I missed it if I haven't seen it in the past.
I think she said it's the first time Melissa's done
Okay,
it.
that's right. And there's a ton of recommendations that are awesome, but I too know that this could consume multiple staff members for a long time. And that's what we just have to make sure that's not the case, or how is it being addressed, and if Melissa comes back and says, nope, our staff has this, you won't even notice it, well, great, do it. But that's what we're asking, I think, because we're familiar with all these unfunded mandates, and I think we always want to be aware of that, so we can navigate our budget and our payoff to our students the best we can. That's what the addition, I think, we're all
And I
asking.
think that's why Sue was saying, can we form some kind of committee maybe outside of school staff to help with some of the tracking? Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to question on the gifted and talented or AP's report? If not, we'll have our first report from our new superintendent. Welcome, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to provide an update this evening. First and foremost, I had the opportunity to attend the last day of summer school this year. It was a wonderful experience. We had about 40 students in our building targeting intervention, and I was able to meet the staff and the students during that time. A couple of things that we're working really hard on is our district finances. Tasha and I are working to close the 24-25 budget. As the board had approved, that is a budget deficit of an estimated $600,000 that we will be closing the 24-25 school year for. I'm sorry, 2020-24, 23-24. As we look forward to the 24-25 school year, we are also forecasting that we will be a budget deficit. We'll be talking about that next week on July 31st. We are anticipating an operating referendum, looking for exactly what that operating referendum should be and the duration. We'll be using Baird as a resource to be able to help guide what that looks like. We also have the opportunity to do debt defeasance again this year, and we'll talk about the specific dollar amounts and how many years of our debt we'll be able to pay off at the end of the 24-25 school year. So big finance meeting on July 31st. We're excited with the information that we're putting together and to be able to share with the board at that time. As you know, the district property insurance, due to where the district is located, the type of buildings that we have, our current insurance provider has canceled our district property insurance as of September 1. We are working with M3 to be able to find a new insurance provider. As you know, Sevastopol is in the worst category to be able to insure because of the location in which we are and the distance we are from the fire department. M3 is looking to see if there is a way that we can, with the updated of our facility, some of the new pieces that we have put into place, is there any possibility that we can get out of that category 10? We're working through that, and we will be providing that information to the board in the August meeting to be able to make a determination. But we do anticipate that our building property insurance will have a premium increase. To the amount of what that looks like, we don't know. Completely confident that we will come up with the best case scenario for the district, but wanted to put that on the radar as that was my July 1st welcome. Your property insurance is canceled due to the location that you are. A couple of other pieces.
Did the insurance company just now look at the map?
No, we've done this before, and I had this problem. What I'm just going to add, if someone hasn't thought, in the past, there were discussions, unsuccessful, but there were discussions about working with the fire departments to see if they would put some remote site here by us. You know, so there's been some work, but we haven't really succeeded at getting that. But I definitely know they work with fire departments, and we're talking about, is there any way to put a satellite station, you know, set up near the schools? So my only point for everybody, we've seen this before, unfortunately, and the insurance world is really not getting nicer to anybody. So good luck, and keep us posted. And
when is our current policy expiring?
September 1, we have to have a new policy. It's very similar to your health insurance. We saw significant increases in our health insurance rates this spring with another increase for the 25-26 school year. The property insurance is the same. When we talk to M3, Tasha, I don't know if you have anything to add, but we're not alone in this. Across the nation, insurance companies are canceling property insurance, and significantly due to the weather changes that we've had, the significant hail damage, the significant water damage. Unfortunately, the good thing for us is we haven't had a claim, but districts are experiencing that, and thus it's causing companies not to be able to forecast what their costs are going to increase, and so ultimately they're just increasing those premiums.
Another factor in us losing our coverage is that the property coverage was a singular policy. Everything else was with EMC, and the property coverage was with a different company. And because it wasn't a bundled package, they felt okay in dropping that coverage. So we are looking at EMC as one of the options to bundle the coverage and looking at other bundled options as well. So.
And am I right to understand, they're canceled our current policies at those rates? They didn't say we're uninsurable. What they said is, we'll insure you, but your rates are going to go up, such as your comment, the premiums probably go up. Right, is that kind of?
No, they're saying they're canceling our policy as it is, as it stands.
As it stands, yeah, let me ask, so, I mean, a policy as it stands has certain costs and stuff like that. Versus, you are uninsurable, do not talk to us again. What they're saying is
That particular company is saying we are uninsurable, they will not entertain us again, but EMC may entertain, and there's another one or two out there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
And there's an option, the district used to be not a layered approach, and so, which is a higher cost to the premium. We shifted to be able to get a lower premium rate. Worst case scenario, we'd have to go back, which would just ultimately increase the premium. So our hope is that we will get an insurance company that will bid on our property as it is. We will be insurable, so I want to make sure that everybody knows we are insurable. It's just to what rate will we be insurable is to be determined.
And there is an appraiser coming out in August so that they can take a look at our building because we are now partly sprinklered and that kind of thing, so.
Thank you.
That's what I have for now.
Is that it? Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not have anything, although we did July for Ms. Anderson, and thought we had a pretty good turnout of people popping in to meet her. Anything on the athletic committee meeting we want to report?
Yeah, so I guess we talked over a couple things, one of them being the town park memorandum that we have. That's coming up to review in August, I believe. So we just went over the stuff on that, all things that progressed over the last year. If there was any items that needed to be addressed. For the most part, everything was fine. They were just looking at, possibly looking at some new projects to put on the list to do in the future. The other thing we went over was the weight room usage. Remember last year we started using a morning shift for the weight room. Went over the numbers on that, and numbers aren't very good for that. They died off in the spring, in the summer, hasn't been much of anything. So basically we decided to cancel the weight room program both the morning and the afternoon. It was our recommendation to cancel that. Save close to $13,000, I think, roughly, by not having that. The other thing about it was that the staff that were there to watch it weren't really trained in any weight room activity type stuff either, so we just, at this point, we thought it was not a good idea to keep it going forward with that. Coaches can still use it with their teams if they want in the morning or in the afternoon, but we thought it was a better idea just to save that money for that. So that's pretty much.
We weren't getting any kids to show up, you know.
Yeah,
And then, you know, we fought for that for a long time for these kids, and they're not showing up. So, nice.
well, so now they've got the opportunity to take a class. There's a couple weight classes in the Fayette, and if they're in a sport, the coach can take them in. They can
Yeah, I mean,
agree to time with the coach.
We didn't have it, we started it, we stopped it. If there's a great push and motivation that is measurable, maybe we'll revisit it.
Yep, and hopefully the coaches get more active in it. The students are.
Good. Anything on the budget report?
So the budget report is in the file for you, or the financial report is in the file for you. We received the open enrollment payment and ESSER funds. That's the bulk of your revenue that you're seeing in that period. As you know, we're open enrollment positive, so that's good news. Our numbers are not final yet for the year, so don't hold me to what's in here. We're still working on year-end entries and finalizing information. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Tasha. How about the facility?
Just a couple of updates. If you've noticed in the back on the playground, we've been replacing the light pole for better opportunities for students when it gets dark and safety issues. We will be replacing the light bulbs around the football field. There's some that need to be replaced before our season starts. Historically, you've replaced a bus every year. We are not going to replace the bus this year, but rather we are purchasing a 10-person van for transportation to hopefully help lower some of our transportation costs and be able to streamline our bus fleet a little bit. And a couple of projects that we are pushing off due to budget shortfalls. The first one is sealing of the parking lot, and then also that refurbishment of the old bathroom. So those two pieces that were on the buildings and grounds maintenance 10-year plan, we are pushing back due to making sure that we can be fiscally responsible.
Okay, thank you. Under board goals, we will have our transitional meeting with the superintendent on July 29th. So lots of discussion and possibly setting some goals at that time. Then we have food service costs, the lunch costs.
So we have been asked by DPI to meet regulations to increase our adult breakfast charge from Yep, that's what, yep, from, we have to increase it from,
30 cents.
no, up to $3. So whatever it was currently, breakfast for our staff needs to go, yep, thank you. Our breakfast for our staff needs to go to $3 to be in compliance with DPI regulations. So you had to change the prices in May and approve the new lunch prices for the school year. You need to make that one amendment.
I would move to approve the increase in food service costs for staff.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything, Ms. Heinley, you'd like to report on legislative activities?
Nothing in addition to what I had in my written report. I will next month share what I learned at the WASD Symposium in Green Bay last weekend, Friday and Saturday. Lots of good stuff there on cybersecurity and artificial intelligence and some of the good things that are coming down the road that we all need to worry about.
Okay, thank you. Then we have the Title IX policy changes.
And I would just add on that Jerry and I, as the policy committee, did meet and with Randy and went over this in great detail. And then Randy vetted this with Mary Gerbic. And that final product is what you see in front of us tonight.
So to cap what you have in front of you, is you have two policies. You have policy 2264 and policy 2266. The reason that you have the two policies is policy 2266 has been in place, needed to be updated to meet the federal regulations, which is what 2264 is. The question might be, well, why do we need both of the policies? And that is recommendation that we keep 2266 in place. Any allegation that would come to the school district that was prior to August 1st of 2024 would fall under your old policy, thus the updates to the old policy to meet the regulations that we needed to have in place. And then we would fade 2266 away eventually and operate under 2264. Some of the components to note is a couple of things. The definition of sexual harassment has been narrowed to talk about severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive, limiting what constitutes a violation. So looking at those definitions in those two policies and how they've been narrowed and yet in some cases expanded to meet a larger population that we serve as a school district. It's really important to point out that schools have the ability to identify the preponderance of evidence as we're going through a sexual harassment case so that that determination is in place. We need to identify who is the Title IX coordinator. As Lisa mentioned earlier, that will be Melissa Margraf. All of our documentation will support that. Once the board has ran through the first read tonight, we will do a second read on July 31st, and policies will go into place August 1st in accordance with the federal expectations. Once the policies are in place, then we will go back and review our student handbooks, our administrative handbooks, our policies around discrimination to ensure that our policies all align together, working extensively with our lawyer and with Neola to ensure that we're in compliance.
And I will just add kudos to you, Randy. I was with a group of school board members from other districts last week, and they are nowhere near where we are at as far as getting this all in place prior to August 1. In fact, that was the top of their conversation of how they were going to be attacking this, and I was pleased to say, well, we're way ahead on this. So, thank you.
Move to approve the first reading of Title IX policies.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have the milk bid, 24-25.
Got a bid from,
Yeah.
I was surprised at it. We got a bid from Iowa. Like, wow.
You must have a Wisconsin.
It was got some
Division or something. A Wisconsin cows will deliver on our, sorry.
Do we know about, I mean, if we took that Iowa bid, are they guaranteed to deliver to us?
Well, last year we almost didn't get it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it was.
So,
We actually currently use Prairie Farms, and we do for our milk bid.
so it's
Yeah, I just
just a
forgot where
matter
they were
of
coming from.
approving them.
George, any questions on it, or should we just move on?
My only, this is a health thing, I just find it fascinating to offer fat-free skim milk. I don't think that's healthy for them. I don't even think 1% is, we want to offer 2%. You know, like, when you're a 45-year-old obese person, well, yeah, because there's a lot of stuff in whole milk and 3% milk that you don't have in skim milk. So I don't understand why we go to the fat-free skim.
Well, there may be adults that drink that. There may be kids that are,
Well, kids,
that
most of
their
the kids-
physician has put them on a low.
Well, I don't know that we're gonna.
I just thought it was,
So, I guess-
I just thought it was fascinating that we don't offer just regular milk,
Whole milk.
whole milk.
Vitamin D.
I'm guessing it's probably a price thing too.
It's got vitamin D in it.
So we currently use Prairie Farms. Do you have a recommendation between these two? Camps offers both.
Well, the escalator clause, I guess, is the same for both. That's the only thing that to me would be concerning. He's looking for a motion to accept the bid. Okay, I would move that we accept the bid from Kemp's Dairy for the 24-25 school year for milk, to provide milk to our lunch program.
There's a motion to accept the Kemp's Farm milk bid. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. That concludes our regular business, so we will take a motion to convene to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Jeff?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Motion carried at 7:54 PM. We'll take a motion on the first positions.
I make a motion to approve the hiring of Steve Delarmo and Jesse Rankin as middle school football coaches, pending cost is consistent with the stipends already in place.
Is there a second?
Are we doing both those on one or separately? They should be separate.
Okay, I approve then the hiring of Steve Delarmo as told with those same ranges.
I got it.
Second.
Questions or discussion on Steve Larwell? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And the second one?
Move to approve Jesse Rankin for the middle school co-head coach for football.
Plus.
Pending cost is consistent with the approve stipends, current stipends.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there a motion on the custodial position?
I would move to approve Mackenzie Messenger for the custodial position.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We will have our professional development transitional meeting on Monday the 29th at the WASB. We've got that special school board meeting, finance, on July 31st. And then our regular meeting on August 21st. If there's no other business, I'll take the motion to adjourn.
I would move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried at 8:07 PM.